Yeah, they asked if we wanted to walk in. I said no. So should I ask them, do they like pop? Do they have to eat something before we start talking? You want to walk in? Let's walk in. Okay. We can walk in. Welcome to ACES this morning, which will be hosted by myself, Dr. Campbell, from the Department of Psychology, and thank you all. Everybody have their phone? So, let me give you a disclaimer. I forgot my presentation quicker today. So I have Ms. Ayanna Patrick up here. So you hear her saying things like slide or Patrick and it seems out of place. That's our signal for her to change the slide. And so you know I'm going to slide Patrick. So slide. So before we get started, the first thing we wanted to do with the ladies today is actually a little mindfulness practice. How many of you guys are familiar with mindfulness? I know you guys are. We did a little mindful coloring, right, on Tuesday. Well, we can just relax, all right? So we'll talk more about mindfulness after we give you this example. So we ready to get started? So I need you to sit comfortably for me, all right? If you're not comfortable moving around, you might want to place your feet solid on the ground and just roll those shoulders back and just relax a little bit. Alright? If you feel so moved, close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, so put that gaze down or towards the ground. Do not look around like anybody. Just stay in peace in this moment. And once you find yourself in a comfortable seated position, eyes closed, or gaze pointed downward, not looking at me. Let's take a deep breath in and release that breath. Take another deep breath in with you and release that breath. Now we're going to sit here in this moment. As you're sitting here, you may have thoughts on your mind. If they just let them. You don't need to focus on it. You don't need to think Okay. So I heard 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The longest we can is 3 minutes. 5 minutes. Actually, only sit still for 2 minutes. Right? So some of you feeling 5 or 3, right? It's an example of why you probably need more mindfulness practice in your life. Because if you overestimated the amount of time you stood still, that could be a sign that you need those moments of stillness, right? If you perceived it to be much longer than it actually was.
So when we talk about, yes. Underestimated. Then, what I find when I'm doing, so some of you know, is that I teach the yoga class. So some of you may know that I teach yoga classes. Dr. Campbell is also trained to teach yoga, and we do at the end of every yoga session a stillness called shasana, where we lie down and and most of the time people are surprised at how short a time it is that we lie still. And people have all kinds of difficulty being still for a minute or two. But this is practice, we call it yoga practice, mindfulness practice, because it's kind of thing where if you were sitting in those 2 minutes and you found yourself fidgeting, you couldn't be still with your body, or you couldn't be still in your mind. Then this one may better. If you found that you were not able to be still, it may be just that you want to practice a little stillness in your time, and this is the reason why. In a minute. Here it's what it is. So when we talk about mindfulness, in this context, what we're talking about is the ability to be present, aware of where we are, what we're doing, and not reacting to things. So it's not, so when we're talking about mindfulness, we're not talking about meditation yet, and we're not talking about any woo-woo thing. It's just really being able to sit, where am I right this minute? What am I thinking about right this minute? What am I feeling right this minute? And that's it. Because oftentimes what's happening is we are here, but we're thinking about lunch, or we're thinking about later, or we're thinking about something that happened with our little sister 12 years ago, or whatever it is, and we're not present. And it's the ability to be present where you get the benefit of this.
So, last semester, or last year, right, through the entire year, we did a survey with some students in my class and also in Professor Jeffries' class, where we asked a series of questions. But one of the findings that was pretty fascinating that came out of this study is what you see is this Bennett, this bottom part on here about Bennett College. So we gave out the CESD. So that's a commonly used diagnostic survey for depression, right? So this survey doesn't tell you if a person is depressed. It speaks about the risk of depression that this person may incurs. So notice here, the mean for our campus of the students that was surveyed was 40.6. When you look at this survey, if you have a score of 20 or above, that means you're at a risk for depression. Our mean was 40, right? So well above that 20%. And this isn't too different for what's going on in today's society, because if you notice here, people who are more likely to face depression, women, African American, teens, or we could say adolescents, right, and social media users. I have a feeling looking out in this room phenotypically, right, I see a lot of women who are Black Americans who are in college, and since everybody had a phone, probably uses at least one social media platform. Now we're probably kind of seeing where that 40.6 mean is coming from, and saying that a lot of you are at a great risk of depression right now. Patrick? So what's stressing you ladies out? School? Huh? Just schools? You said stuff? Relationships? I'm assuming that's social and romantic, right? And sometimes those platonic ones. Finances, money is real, right?
Last week, who said that there's a survey that shows that for 72% of Americans, money is the number one stressor. For 72% of the population, that money is the thing that stresses us out. Anything else? The passage of time. What? So is social media stressing you out? Social media makes my day. So it doesn't feel stressful to you? Are you using social media for relaxing? Tell me how you use it. Just scroll. Scrolling on what? Come together. What else?
Just scrolling.
So funny post. What else? Okay. So knowing things sometimes helps us feel in control. Did y'all hear her? Yeah, she's looking at somebody's got a Fendi bag. She wants a Fendi bag. She's going to get it. She's going to grind and get it. Okay. Stand up so that they can hear you. She got a plan. Got a plan.
Sorry, I'm not used to microphones. I don't think I need this. Who passing the mic? I know I'm going to be like this in a moment. So one of the reasons why we're having this conversation is, notice here, 86% of Americans, right, in your age group, under 30, right, are using social media. That's the majority of people in society using some form of social media. Notice 63% of African Americans are on social media. So other people may be looking at it for goal reasons, right, or scrolling, staying current, passing the time. But the thing is, we have, evidence that shows that this is very profound, right? People are using this all the time. So Patrick? So, what are we looking at? 63% of people are using Facebook. Again, that's pretty huge. And we use it for various reasons, right? Like I said, some of you might be using it for relaxing. Some of it might be current events. Right now, Facebook is even going through drama coming off of this past election, right? Whether or not Russia was buying these ads and basically priming us with different ideas that we didn't even realize when you see those different ads pop up on Facebook. Also, we're seeing a popularity increase with Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. For this particular research, they didn't do Snapchat. So in case you guys are wondering, because it is popular, we just didn't have empirical evidence from Pew just yet to look at it. Because, Snapchat gets a little tricky, right? Since whether or not you're actually saving, those videos that you post, that's how it gets a little tricky when it's time to collect that data.
End of 2016. So this is new data. And how many of you are Facebook people? Not very many. How many Instagram? So more Instagram. This is probably showing higher because this is looking at the total population. So if we were able to get statistics on just your age group, it probably would skew a little bit differently from here. But also, just so you know, those of you who aren't on Facebook, the people my age are on Facebook, and those are the people who are hiring. So just putting that out there. We're putting together so you can see something that talks about some of what happens on these social media sites that you're using. This is a video from, this is a person with the New York Times who does a video version of an opinion column, and this is it.
Big eyes, big mouth, shrunken librarian, Chelgo, E.T., funny magician, puppies, nose job. Wait, what? Remember a few years ago when there was all this criticism of magazines for promoting completely unrealistic standards for how women are supposed to look? Well, now celebrities can just Photoshop themselves and put the results out on Instagram. And we can do it too. Now that these digital beautifying tools are in our own hands, it can make us feel like we have all this control over our images. Do we though? You don't have to get digital plastic surgery in order to be a person online, but there are a lot of companies that strongly suggest that you do. There are endless selfie editing apps that give us smoother skin, smaller noses, higher cheekbones, narrower chins, longer eyelashes. A lot of them just make you whiter, which is so messed up. All across social media, a very particular beauty ideal is being posted. Super white, hyper feminine, and creepily youthful. Snapchat even made a Marie Curie filter that gave her big, fluttery eyelashes for International Women's Day. And a button called Beauty Effect popped up on the home screen of Musical.ly, a lip-syncing app that is super popular among really young girls. They decided that a bunch of 12-year-olds needed to have digital face lifts before they could be seen singing along to their favorite songs. Some research suggests that sending out a selfie can give us a momentary self-esteem boost because it makes us feel like we have control over how we're seen. Maybe these apps make us feel better about the way we look, or maybe they make us feel worse without them. One user of Me2, a Chinese beauty app, said she was so enamored of the edited version of her face that she wished she could live in the world of her phone all the time. Yikes. Instead of comparing ourselves to Photoshop pictures of celebrities, we can compare ourselves to idealized versions of ourselves. Instead of a fashion magazine editor deciding what's beautiful, we have technology companies urging us to download apps and press their buttons. It all makes beauty standards feel scientific. Just like Fitbits count our steps and calculate the calories we burned, and sleep monitors track our REM cycles and know just when to wake us up, beauty apps seem to map out our faces objectively and algorithmically determine what's wrong with them. And once we send a selfie out into the world, we get even more data back that seems to tell us how popular our faces are compared to other people's faces. And interactions are all gamified, which means that we keep tapping, looking to see if anyone liked us. It's become really common for younger users of Instagram to post a selfie and, if it doesn't get enough likes, delete it, so they don't seem unpopular. The whole picture of who we are online is being molded by app companies hungry for engagement numbers. We're always being nudged to post content that gets more attention from other users, the kind of stuff that makes other people addicted to our feeds. Something as seemingly frivolous as a selfie can actually push a lot of addictive psychological buttons. The same picture can elicit feelings of admiration, envy, disdain, and self-doubt, sometimes all at the same time. Taking a selfie is often criticized as a deeply narcissistic act. I don't really think that's true. To me, the selfie is a request to participate in the online world. Putting your face on the internet is no more vain than showing up at a party and seeing your friends. But these apps don't care about us becoming fully realized people online. To them, our faces are marketing opportunities. They make us question our worth and then sell us a filter to fix it.
Next time on Internet, who really loves the New York Times? Internet is the best.
How many people are using filters when you post? Sometimes. How many people will take a picture and then take another picture and then take another picture, take another picture, and take another picture until you get the picture that you think is going to be the cutest? Yes? And why are you doing that? What is the goal of I want the best and cutest picture? What are you trying to get? You're trying to get the most likes. What happens when you don't get the most likes? It's still up and she's still cute. Any other thoughts? How do you feel when you post something and you think, okay, this is a hotness, and nobody responds? Does anybody delete? Say.
Actually, I always say her name wrong, Miss Bennett College, right? Her feelings are pretty much in line with the majority of adolescents, or I should say college students within your category, where we have empirical evidence that supports these claims. So that's awesome if you're on that level where you can say, I'm posting this and I don't care if I only get 2 or 3 likes, because the reality is most people aren't there yet, right? So, as you can see up here, we have Snapchat hurts, right? So this is empirical evidence from the Royal Society. You'll see the reference on the next slide, where Snapchat users felt like they were being more bullied, or at times even felt left out from other things that were going on. Notice here, this was amongst young people, which we find is the strongest users of Snapchat, right? And they felt that those people who are using Snapchat tend to feel more anxious and oftentimes inadequate, right? So the inadequacy is coming from comparing themselves to the other things that they were seeing people posting on Snapchat, or the other things that people are doing, right? I'll say that. Patrick. So if you think Snapchat is bad, Instagram gets worse, right? So for Instagram, notice here, it is the most damaging social media platform. So this is across Facebook, Twitter. This is also including YouTube and LinkedIn, right? So across all social media platforms, we have Instagram being the worst. Why? They notice that people who are high users of Instagram, so that means people who are checking Instagram more than once a day, tend to report low self-esteem, poor body image, and also a lack of sleep. Right? Because you're constantly up checking, scrolling, seeing what else is going on instead of just going to bed. This is a rhetorical question, so don't raise your hand, but how many people check at least one form of social media before you go to bed? So look, I said rhetorical, don't tell me, right? Because now I'm going to be like, we need to talk later, right? Because what you don't want to do is scroll through this information before you go to bed. Because what happens if you see someone with that outfit that you wanted, or someone at the event that you wanted to go to but you decided not to go to, right? As you sleep, you're going to be processing that information. You know, one of the things that we learn in our states of consciousness, right, we tend to replay that last engagement or interaction we have before we go to bed at night. So if that last thing is something that's going to affect your self-esteem or body image, that's definitely going to impact your sleep, because it's going to impact the dreams that you have throughout that night. Patrick? So, Facebook makes you sad. So Facebook, I'm sorry, ma'am. I said, so Snapchat and Instagram are the worst ones, right? With Instagram being at the top. You can imagine this probably has something to do with the fact of the use of photos, right? Snapchat and Instagram is more so about what we're actually seeing, where on Facebook you can actually post something. Or like you ladies said earlier, some of you go to Facebook for current events, right? I know for me, I get some of my best articles and research ideas from Facebook, right? Because you can follow different journals or whatnot on Facebook. I have a feeling y'all probably not following journals on Facebook though, right? But what tends to happen, as you see here, only 9% of people on Facebook are actually interacting. So if you're telling yourself, this is how I keep up with my friends. Yeah, you might be reading what your friends are doing. You might be looking at what your friends are doing. But how often do you send your friend that message? How often are you actually engaging in a conversation on one of those posts? So there's a difference between I'm actually interacting and engaging with my friends as opposed to I'm trolling information, right? So it's kind of sad when you think about it, since everyone's like, social media, it brings us together, but we're only interacting at 9%. Notice here, passively consuming information is not fulfilling or satisfying. So those of you who are like, yeah, I get uplifted when I scroll through, we got data that shows that actually you don't. You think that you're going to feel better by taking that break and going to Facebook, when in actuality, that break on Facebook can actually make you feel worse, right? Because it depends on how you're processing the information that's coming from Facebook. Now, with this study, it was pretty cool because they actually did a comparison between scrolling Facebook and just surfing the internet. So you know how you can just go online and start looking at stuff, maybe you're looking at that Fendi bag or going to some other website. They found that the emotional stress that comes from scrolling, right, isn't as strong as if you're just going surfing the internet as opposed to scrolling through Facebook, right? Because it's a different type of content that you're exposing yourself to. And also, if you have another task that you need to complete, maybe you got a paper due or somewhere you need to go, and you just realize you just spent 20 minutes of your life on Facebook and you've accomplished nothing, it can actually backfire and make you feel worse. So again, going there for a break that leads to, again, unproductivity or you seeing something that may prime or trigger an emotional response could actually be detrimental to the break that you're taking on Facebook. So Patrick?
So I'll finish this up and then I will have a question. So, okay, this one? Okay. Facebook, 70% of people use Facebook every day. So we saw the data that says it's making you sad, but 70% of us are doing it anyway. We are assuming that it's going to make us feel better. I need a break because everything else is stressing me out. But actually what you're saying, as she said, it's going to make you feel worse. The use of it will it makes you feel worse fast. So within 20 minutes of being on Facebook and doing your scrolling, your mood is going down. What a question.
I go look at Beyonce, and I'm like, ooh, Beyonce, she got the poses, the page, and she's really popping. That's making me more sad because I don't look like Beyonce, but I'm already unhappy. Now, if I am myself, I'm very confident. So I go and look at Beyonce, I'm like, oh, Beyonce cute, but you cute too, girl, So I'm just thinking, like, is it that the person can already just be unhappy, and this is feeding? So that's awesome that you got excited, Alex, and that's great. But you got to realize what we're reporting to you is statistics. Have we said 100% of people who go to Facebook do this? 100% of people feel that way? That's never the case. That's the beauty of research. So what we're telling you is the majority of the population may feel that way. As you remember, we talked about, what was it, 78%? So that means you fall into that category of that 20. So you're just in the 12%. But that doesn't mean it's not a problem because the majority of the population is experiencing said problem. Now you do bring up a valid point. So if you are sad and you go to Facebook, it most likely is going to make you sad. But you can be in a happy state because happiness is kind of fluid. It can go up and down real quick, right? You could have been happy before you walked in here, experienced some sadness, and be happy again by the time you walk out. That's why we're saying mood goes quick. It can only take 20 minutes to change your mood. This becomes an issue when it's long term, right? Because you don't get a little bit of depression. right? You are depressed. But it gets even trickier if you experience chronic depression, right? It means it's a reoccurring depression that's taking place. So no, so I don't want anybody to think that what we're saying is all or none. Because human behavior is never all or none. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. But what we are talking about are majority numbers. We're over 50% here. This p-value is significant, right? Where we can say there's tons of evidence that says we need to do a better job of monitoring how we use social media. We also know that as human beings, we have the tendency to say one thing and mean another, right? Everybody wants to be healthy, right? And live long life and have clear skin, right? But how many of us drink 64 ounces of water a day, right? How many of us eat fast food, right? But yet we want to be healthy. How many people say, Beyonce is awesome and I want to be Beyonce, but they don't think about the fact that Beyonce been singing and dancing since she was like 8. She didn't have any friends growing up, and I think she got to go to one prom with her cousin. But we don't think about that side of what Beyonce's doing, because she's definitely not eating fast food, right?
You see what you see online. I had some students a couple of years ago to talk to me about somebody that they followed on Instagram, and they were like, she's so cool, and she's so this, and she's so that. I was like, oh, you know her? And they were like, no. I was like, so how do you know she's cool? But look at her feed. Look at her. She's so cool. Like, you don't know her. And then they said, now, you know, y'all know I'm a mama. Then she said that she has a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I said, okay, boo-boo, trust and believe. If she has a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old, her life is not cool all the time. What do you post? Do you post when you're looking your worst? No. Do you post when you're feeling your worst? No. That's what I see when I see y'all when y'all are cute. That's what you post. And so then it looks like your feed looks like your life is great. Somebody else's life is great. So you go on and you look at other people's feeds, and they're at the party and they just won something and they're out and they're doing great, and it looks like that's their whole life. Well, you know what your life is like. I know what my life is like, right? And then so it looks like everybody else, even if you know intellectually that's not the case, emotionally it looks like everybody else's life is great, and mine maybe not so. Maybe it's not so great, or maybe it's not great yet.
So oftentimes as human beings, we have a disconnect between our conscious and unconscious behavior. So you may consciously know, just as Professor Jeffries said, that their life isn't that great, right? But our unconscious still triggers this emotional effect that can cause us to feel a little less than, right? So I have a real example, because I know everyone was going to be like, oh, this isn't me. And I'm not tech savvy, and I didn't have time to ask a JMS student how to help me fix this, so y'all couldn't see my friend's name. But I screenshotted a Facebook post that I wanted to share with you ladies, because it's sad. I'm saying friends, but I'm saying friends. We're Facebook friends. So this is a 25-year-old black male, right? It says explicit language I can't say in the chapel. And then it goes, I posted 2 stories today and didn't get a single like, let alone a comment. Not gonna lie, I feel some type of way without social media affirmation. Without fail, if folks care to even notice this post, people would tell me not to care about superficial stuff such as likes and shares. That's BS. Don't like or comment here, go find those 2 posts and engage them. And I know some of y'all are probably sitting here thinking like, really, this person is grown? I think he's probably about 25, 29, not quite yet 30, but felt the need, right, to share this post because less than 10 people liked the comment that he made, right? So I have a feeling that there are other people in this room that have that same kind of reaction. You might not feel the need to respond, but I bet you there was a moment where you're like, nobody liked my picture today? Or, I can't believe I haven't had more action on my page.
On the slides is the data that talks about how the relationship between social media addiction and how that compares to drug addiction, alcoholism, eating disorders, and what have you. So when you look at what's happening in your brain, the same thing that if you take a drink or you take a hit, something is happening in your brain And that same thing is happening when you open up your Facebook or your Instagram and you got a lot of comments and you've got a lot of things. Literally what's going on in your brain is the development of an addiction. So here's my question for now. How many people are on their phone right now? Ooh! So what you can't see from this end is how many heads went up, because those heads were on their phone. So what does that mean? We're here talking about something, and you're somewhere else. You're whoever you're talking to on your phone, you're somewhere else, you're doing something else, and we've been here for how long? We've been here 40 minutes, and you haven't been off your phone for 40 minutes.
So I think that's a perfect real-world example, because I'm sure as soon as Professor Jeffries started talking about addiction, some of y'all was like, oh no, she done gone too far now, right? But if you've had to look at your phone more than one time, and you're not an entrepreneur, a mom, a police officer, or a fire person, we probably got a problem here, because there's nothing that's happening right now that's so important that this next 60 minutes of your life meant that you needed to check your phone more than 3 times. Go on, look at it. Well, I'm sitting here talking to you, JMS. See, and I think a lot of times we don't even think about how far this has gone. Because if you can't go one day without checking at least one social media platform, and I won't count LinkedIn. Yeah, check that one every day. Get a job, right? But all the other ones, we got to ask ourselves, is this getting to a place of addiction? If you must constantly check your phone. So with that being said, I don't want you to think that Professor Jeffries and I are here today to tell you no more social media. Technology is bad. No, that's not the case. Social media is awesome when you use the platforms properly, right? I can tell you I've got a lot of information from YouTube. It's amazing when something goes wrong in your home and you can just YouTube how to fix a toilet. Amazing, right? With that being said, I'm also not spending, 2 hours of my day scrolling through Facebook. That's where things become a problem. So if we use these things to get out information, to actually connect with people, let's not be a part of the 9%, right? Let's make that percentage higher. Connecting is great. Plus, we have other forms of technology that can be beneficial to help us with the beginning of this ACE, learning how to be still. Because I can also say where if you sat in a mindfulness moment and you're like, yeah, that felt like about 2 minutes, or you felt less, great. But if you've also sat here and you felt the need to look at your cell phone, or you're looking at your cell phone right now, who's not even realizing I'm looking at her, right? Then you might need some of these mindfulness practices to learn how to take a break from this, right? And learn how to just be in that moment, right? So, Professor Jeffries is going to introduce you to some awesome apps.
Thank you. After I say this, one of the things that if you are in JMS, you hear me say a lot, that we need to think about here is that at the point that you are in your phone doing something, sometimes we're just talking to our friends. Use, as Dr. Campbell said, use your social media to actually connect. I had lunch with somebody the other day who was a Facebook friend. I had not met her before, but we used Facebook to plan an actual lunch where we could get together face to face and have a real interaction without the phone coming between us. So you can use it for that. And also think about this as, this is a place where you're moving into your higher elevation and you're moving towards your goals. When you're playing a game or doing something like that, you are using something that somebody else created. You're not creating, you're consuming. And not only does it make you feel bad, the passive consumption slide that we saw, not only does it have an impact on your mood, you're not getting anything done. And so here, if you have an idea for a business, or there's something else you want to create, you may want to think about, can I use the time that I'm looking at somebody else's creation and make a creation of my own? So just something to think about. So it's not all bad news. So the technology, as Dr. Campbell said, brings us information. It can connect us to people that we would not have met otherwise. So all of that is good if you use it for good. And there are also specific programs that you can use to help you to be more mindful. So she said that she doesn't spend 2 hours on the phone scrolling. I do. And so what I found is that there is the second one here. There is a program that you can put on your computer. This is a screenshot from my computer. It says, shouldn't you be working? You can put this on your computer and set it up so that it will block you from certain sites at certain times. So I know that there are certain places, I go to the Sartorialist, I go to Design Sponge, I go to Facebook, where I will find myself in that rabbit hole where you look up and you've been there for an hour, and you didn't realize you'd been there for an hour. If I go on Facebook, if I don't hurry up and post what I'm going to post, it will shut me out. And I can set it up for certain times. So I have this set up so it shuts me out during my work hours, and it only gives me a certain amount of time in the evening, and it'll cut me off at a certain point at night. So it's like, shouldn't you be in bed? Okay? So that's an app, it's called Waste No Time. So it helps you manage your different pages. There's another one that I also have on my computer. People come in my office, they're like, what is that gong? Like, it's my mindfulness. It's bell of mindfulness. That is one that you can put on your computer to remind you to stop and breathe, stop and get up and move around, because a lot of times what will happen, and this has a health effect, we sit down at the computer and we're there for hours. We don't blink. It has a tendency to make us not blink, which is bad for our eyes, and we don't move around, which is bad for our circulation. So you can set that up so that every 20 minutes or 30 minutes or every hour, whatever you want, it will remind you. It's a nice little gentle gong that reminds you to stop and breathe, stop and move, stop and pray, whatever it is that you need to stop and do. You have a question? So perfect timing. We have things on the phone. So some of these are I know the one that blocks you, I think, is only for the computer. And I'm not sure that I don't think it's developed yet so that it's on the phone, because it's something that's fairly new. But you can go on and Google some of this stuff. Here's a list, and when I went to look at mindfulness apps, just like lists of things come up. So depending on whether you've got an iPhone or another phone, you may find different things. But here's the whole list. Insight Timer, where you can get over 4,000 guided meditations that will allow you just to sit down for however long you want to sit and guide you through a meditation. Smiling Mind is something that teachers and parents can use with their children to kind of help their children. A lot of folks have, a lot of us may have ADHD. And one of the things that is recommended for folks with attention issues is to develop a mindfulness practice. And that can be developed as young as babies, really. There are people who do this with their children. So those of you in social work and education can start to look at some of these things that are being brought into schools. There's an article that I read just this past week about a school that did away with ACES and detention and made it a meditation space, and looked at how much better those students' behavior was when they were able to come and get themselves together, and then develop techniques for learning how to keep themselves together so that they weren't reacting in a way in class that was not helpful for them. Stop, breathe, and think. If you have anxiety, depression, that's something that focuses on that. It includes a mood tracker so you can kind of figure out when you're in a bad mood. And once you figure out when you're in a certain mood, you can maybe figure out what happened right before that might have caused that. And then once you know what caused it, you know what to kind of avoid. Yes? Headspace, 10-minute exercises designed for people who are new to the idea of meditation, mindfulness practices, just 10 minutes a day. You think about, you got 24 hours a day, 106 some whatever that is in a week. You can afford to take 10 minutes out of a day, right? To just sit still, get with yourself.
I just wanted to respond to your question since Professor Jeffries threw that shade. You hear her, she said, iPhones or those other phones? I have those other phones. So I'm Android. She knows I'm Apple illiterate, so don't ask me anything about an iPhone. I wasn't even sure that we could share the presentation. It's comical. But I do have an Android, and on my Android phone, I have the dimmer set. So my phone dims at like 9 o'clock, so it's kind of like hard for me to see it. So that way it prevents me from going on websites where I need to scroll and do things. Because while I'm not a big Facebook, and I don't even have the other ones, I love YouTube. So I can lose 2 hours of my life on YouTube of just learning about things, natural hair searches, and everything else. So what the dimmer does on my phone, it takes the, I believe it's the blue out, right? We had to talk to a computer science person. So your phone starts to look kind of this weird yellow that you won't want to look at stuff through it. Now, true, I can take it off, but the thing is, it lets me know, okay, it's 9 o'clock. I need to start getting my mind right to shut down. Because if I spend too much time staring at my screen, it makes it hard for me to sleep at night. And that's just a function within your iPhone, your Android. So if you have Android, anybody can set that up. And I know there is a blocker that you can download. The name escapes me right now, but if you Google like browsing blocker Android, it'll come up. It kind of makes me nervous though, because what if I must see something? You know, I don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of trying to take it off. But they do have some for this. I can also say that I've personally used Stop, Breathe, and Think, and it's nice because it's simplistic. So as we walk through that mindfulness meditation this morning, you may think, well, if I need to sit still my own self, I'm going to be trying to check my phone to check the time. These apps are so nice that they actually have little dings, or you can decide, do I want to hear a voice? Because I'm working on my mindfulness voice of trying to be calm and monotone as I walked you through that breathing, but I'm not really good. So they have these apps where you can select, male or female voice that can talk you, do these mindfulness practices that I find really nice as a new person that, it takes time. It takes time. Where when I got to a place where I could sit for 5 minutes, I was like proud of myself.
Patrick.
Mindful space, you're able to see how things are in divine order. Oh my God, but the good thing went out, how are they going to hear me? Everything is good. Everything is good.
Last shout out, feel free to join Professor Jeffries at yoga on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. in the gym. Same place.
Faculty staff, members of the college, and announcements. Okay, so I have 2 announcements today. The Graduate and Professional School Informational Day Fair is immediately following ACES. So it's located in the GLC, it's from 10 to 2. Please just go over and see. Seniors, if you're thinking about going to grad school, please go and see what graduate programs we have open today. The Social Work Club is having Black Girl Magic, a pile of fun and girl talk.
It's located in Player Hall.
Is today the 9th? Yes, today at 6 o'clock p.m., okay? All right, you are now in the hands of the marshals.